started. Yeah, welcome everyone to this Glam Hive session, Creating Influence That Matters. It's very much about building community, whatever your community is. If it's your in real life community, your family, your friends, your social media, your company, this session is for you. And I very much put this session kind of in the filter of a lot of our stylists, where a lot of them are working to build their community of people that they get to serve and connect with via social media. So I'm Stephanie Sprengers, and I'm the founder of Glam Hive. And I'm here with Lucy Allen, who is the founder of Never Fully Dressed, an amazing international brand, but based in London. And then we also have Cassandra Cadwell, who is with Violet Grey, one of my favorite brands, based in Los Angeles. And so I'd love for you guys, well, I should do some housekeeping first. I should follow my own moderator notes, which is that we're gonna have about 30 minutes of a conversation and then 10 minutes of Q&A. If you have any questions, you can type them in chat and we will all see them. So whatever you type, everyone will see. I would like to thank Mary Kay Global for being our presenting sponsor for this day. They've made it so possible. I know that for all of us that are business owners, having great partners is a big part of it. So we're very thankful to Mary Kay. And so with that, we'll just get started. So Lucy, I'd love to start with you and have you introduce yourself and tell us about you, who you are, about your company and how you got started.
I'm Lucy. I sound like I'm at a priory. My name's Lucy and I started Never Fully Dressed. I used to want to act when I was younger, and just like, I suppose, 90% of unemployed actresses, just started another hobby, and I've always been creative. I used to make clothes and then I sold them at the markets. My parents were always market traders in the East End, like in East London. So just had that in my blood. And then things just snowballed from there. It's been going about 12 years now, so kind of before social, and we've kind of grown with social media. So we started really when Instagram was big, like starting, and we've just really navigated the kind of industry with that as an extension of what we do. And we make clothes in like a US 2 to 22. It's all very inclusive. We do a lot of styling videos on how you can make that product work for you, and ultimately just making the woman feel confident when whenever she's wearing a piece of clothing.
I love that. I love that you started your company kind of before social media. And so you'll be able to probably talk with us about the contrast of how you built your community and built your following before you had a way to really amplify your message through social media. So we'll bookmark that one. That's awesome. And Cassandra, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell us about you.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Cassandra Cadwell. I am the community manager at Violet Grey, and I also run my own social media platform. I kind of got into the industry. I studied consumer behavior and psychology at USC, and I graduated in 2014, which is kind of, I think, really when social media started to really become a main platform for every brand. That I think that was kind of when it really hit that every brand needed to have a serious social media plan and strategy. And so given that that's when I graduated and being fresh out of college, it was just kind of the natural step. Everyone saw a marketing major and said, you're going to do social media. And so I loved it. And it just kind of snowballed from there into various different elements. I did also digital marketing, SEO, things like that. And then also applying that to my own platform and growing that over the past few years. And I've pretty much every social media platform you can imagine, I've tried something on it. And I eventually kind of ended up, I think, it never occurred to me that beauty was an industry I could work in. And there was an opportunity at Violet Grey. And I started there about 2.5 years ago, and it just kind of really clicked. And it ended up just being almost like a perfect match of a job for me. And it really aligns with what I do online on my own social media now, which is also fantastic. It's really nice to have kind of my personal brand and the company I work for align so well. So yeah, I guess I would categorize myself as a fashion beauty influencer as well.
I love that. And Violet Gray, when I just started Glam Hive as a styling company, Violet Gray was a platform and a company that I really loved and admired and respected. In a way, I kind of took one out of your playbook where you had a lot of celebrity makeup artists that are part of Violet Gray.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to build the foundation of Glam Hive with celebrity stylists because they're the rock stars of the styling industry. And so I always really have admired you. And then of course, Cassandra Gray, who is the
Yes.
founder of,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's just done such an incredible job with the company, and I adore her. She's so wonderful. She's so just encouraging and supportive of employees. But I mean, yeah, I think there's probably a lot of overlap between Glam Hive and Violet Gray. I saw on a couple of the other panelists are actually some of our committee members who test and vet our process or our products. And that's actually what I manage. And so I work with a few of them very closely. So I was happy to see them on the panel as well.
So this might be a good question, and this is not in our list of questions, but for both Lucy and Cassandra, when you started to build the community, Lucy, I know that you built it from the ground up. Cassandra, when did you come into Violet Gray? Where was the company at? Was there already the roster of celebrity makeup artists, or did you help to build that, or were you building it and cultivating it?
Yeah, so when I came onto Violet Gray, there was already a roster of celebrity, it's makeup artists, estheticians, hairstylists, dermatologists, plastic surgeons. I mean, even celebrity dentists. It's really every single aspect of beauty that you can really conceive. Even Chanel's brow artist, Jimena, who's wonderful. But yeah, there was already a very strong list of people ever since starting to manage that. We have expanded it quite a bit, and also to include, rising stars, those who are rising quite quickly and who are working with, people like Bella Hadid, but also people who are really just kind of starting their artistry and doing really incredible work with that as well. So there was already a roster, which I think has been established at Violet Gray since probably 2014 with the inception, but it's definitely expanded since I've started managing it.
And did you face at all people being like if the community, kind of the foundation is kind of people that work with celebrities or celebrity stylists and artists in their own right, kind of how did you bridge the gap of people maybe feeling like they were intimidated by that? Like, is that something that you had to think about or address at all?
Insofar as makeup artists being intimidated, or
no, the Violet Gray customer, like coming in and maybe feeling, was there any intimidation factor, or was it more just like, wow, it's wonderful to be part of this community with these other kind of rock stars?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of eagerness to be involved. We find that most people, as long as they have the time, I mean, some artists are just incredibly busy 24/7, and they don't even really have the time to be vetting new products and the cadence that we do test products. But I think for the most part, it's a lot of just really excitement. I mean, if you love beauty, the opportunity to just test new products constantly is kind of just like such a fun thing for most people. So there's a lot of excitement, but I think insofar as any intimidation, I think it's funny because almost every time people come into the store, it's just so pretty. There's always a level of, can I touch things? But yeah, otherwise it's a very welcoming environment all around.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
And Lucy, so for you, I'm so interested because you have I love your Instagram also. And I look at the styling that happens on your Instagram, on your website, and I just love it so much, of course. And so tell us about how you kind of started to build your community. I have to think it started with you, and then from there it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And so can you tell us about the early days and how that happened?
So I think from the market just has such a nice community spirit. Like you've got all the different traders and stuff. So even actually when we did a pop-up in LA a few years ago, we did the Melrose like flea market thing there. I think once you have that, it's just a nice buzz around traders. And I think that just grew. I think the main thing for us really is just having your voice, being honest. And I think that coming from me, I think I just have that tone anyway in how I am in life, but just how I talk to the customer. It's very direct, it's very inclusive. Like we were saying before, there's no elitism about anything. Like our customers involved in that journey. Even when we have new customer service girls, when they start, they'll like forward me loads of emails being like, oh, your friends emailed, and I'm like, no, I don't know them. That's just kind of that familiarity that we've just always had with our customer base. They've just been part of that journey as we've grown. So it's amazing now when people shop and I'll be like, oh, I bought this 10 years ago or something from the market, and they're just still on that journey with you. It's flattering and like quite humbling,
I love that.
and great. I think that family has just grown.
I think that's a good way of putting it. And I think I've seen that within the Glam Hive community and the Glam Hive family. Whenever I get an email from a new stylist saying, I'm so excited to be part of the Glam Hive family, it warms my heart, because I feel like that is something, it literally gives me chills as I say it right now, because
Well, that's a choice. That's a choice
yes,
for someone
yes.
to do that. It's not like someone's like, my child has got no choice. I'm like, sorry, I'm your mum. Do you know what I mean? Like, someone's got to be. But with that, like, they've chosen to work with you. And I think like you've got that one life and you take those choices seriously. Do you know what I mean? I don't work with anyone I don't respect or appreciate. And if someone's made that choice, like for you to say, I want to be part of that family, like that's beautiful, isn't it? That's amazing.
It really is. And so I think, when I think about, I'm kind of getting into the mind of a stylist where, stylists, kind of unlike maybe bloggers, a lot of stylists don't see themselves as influencers, even though they clearly are. And I
Yeah, it's
think,
hazy now, I feel like.
well, and that actually is my first proper question that I didn't actually ask. But what does it mean to have influence? Like, I think everyone's like, what is an influencer? And, to me, I'm like, everyone's an influencer. I heard this earlier today when someone asked, could anyone look like a star if you had all the wardrobe and makeup? And everyone said yes. And so in a way, everyone is an influencer to their world, to their community.
Yeah,
But what does it mean today?
I still think there's something, like we were talking in the office, there's like a little X factor that someone has, that if they're at a party, I've got a cousin who's like it, like whatever she would wear, someone would go, oh, I love your outfit. They would want it. I think some people, you can't explain it, you can't ever put your finger on it, but that is what that person has. But I think influence is different to whoever. There's always a level of measure, do you know what I mean, of what influence it is and who's looking at it. If you're speaking to your financial director, influence is who's selling the most product. If, as I'm talking about my family, influence is how my children are growing up with the impact. Ultimate influences the effect that something has on something else. Do you know what I mean? So I think this year as well, I think 2020, everything's been quite humbled. I think we've been hit. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are, like you can get COVID, or your business can be hit by something and you've been affected. It's kind of humbled people on a level, and I almost think it's stripped back that influence. So it's not, especially on lockdown, it was so nice not to have like feeds on Instagram of just people living this life that, do you know what I mean, like an affected life that they would trying to put out there. It was all very much, you're at home. If you live in a bedsit, if you live in a studio crappy flat, like that's it, that's where you're taking your imagery and that's who you are. There was no makeup around that. So I think I say it was stripped back, and it was more, what is your influence, I say, on your community, on your on family. And that was our focus, like straight away in the first lockdown, of just having a positive effect, like not necessarily us selling dresses. Of course, you can't do all that nice stuff unless you sell dresses, because otherwise it's a bit romantic. Do you know what I mean? That idea that you can have that. But if that is able to fund then that community on other levels, of us doing, like we launched a Feel Good Friday initiative and like so many other things that just kept that community going through that time, which was the most important thing. You kind of go into survival mode for you and for those people that you love, just to do the best for one another, I think, at that time. So that would be the influence that we look to have at that time. Whereas we might have a sale going on in Black Friday, and the influence would be measured by how many dresses we sold of that. Do you know what I mean? So I think it depends who's measuring it, and where you're looking.
I love that. And Cassandra, from your perspective, you would see influence from both your own personal work as an influencer, and then also for Violet Grey. So tell us about your perspective on that.
Yeah, just thinking about this, I think that I was actually thinking about this the other day. And I think a lot of being an influencer, personally for me is the ability to capture attention, because that's kind of really, what you're doing on Instagram. How are you going about capturing people's attention? How are you going about not monopolizing, you don't want to be all that they think about, but at least monopolizing a couple minutes of, their thoughts during the day. Oh, I saw her wear that, let me go revisit her page. Maybe that's something I want her. Oh, I remember she said to exfoliate, that she exfoliates once a week, full body. Like, it's just those little moments of capturing someone's attention. And I think, along with that is just kind of the sharing and the discovery aspect. I think a way to capture people's attention is when you're just constantly sharing your life, and then you're kind of just always top of mind, and you know that they went to go get coffee, and their coffee order, and that they are moving tomorrow, and where they're moving, and it's just like that constant share. You get invested, and then again that goes back to capturing the attention. And I think also, as far as like what is influencer, what does it mean, it's, I think, largely also about discovery. Are you constantly sharing new information, a new product, just a new concept, or what you're thinking about? But I think for me it's a lot of capturing attention, sharing my life, and discovery. And I think on the flip side for Violet Grey, if I just put it into one word, the influence there would be just trust, which again kind of goes back to our committee of industry experts, where we vet everything that is on the shelves of Violet Grey has been tested and approved by these industry experts, and deemed something that they would carry in their kits. So that what you're buying, it's something that people really love, that at least 70% of them have approved. And I think with that trust is kind of at the core of everything we do, and that is where our influence comes from. And I think also it's our customer likes things to look nice, and so it's just knowing that when you come to Violet Grey, you'll find something that looks great on your vanity, and it works, and it's just that trust of what you get when you come to us.
I agree. I was looking for a makeup bag, which is actually a really hard thing to find, as it turns out. And so I'm like, I'm going to go to Violet Grey, and I have a beautiful, it's like patent leather Violet Grey makeup bag. I love it. It's beautiful. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find one anywhere. And so I would agree that I know that when I go to Violet Grey, that everything on the site has been vetted, and I know it's just like the best. So I don't even really have to think about it. And in a way, I would think that for you, Lucy, as the owner and founder of your company, people, and clearly with all of the women that love your products, that people would just know that if someone is drawn to the brand, that they would just love what it is that you're selling on your site. I imagine.
Yeah, someone said that the other day. I think when someone likes what we do, they really like what we do. Do you know what I mean? But maybe that is about a fan. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's middle ground. Our prints are quite out there, and that's what we're known for. I think if you like it, yeah, you really like it. Yes. You might hate it, but yeah, you're committed either way.
Well, that's what you were saying. Before we started, Lucy said that her wallpaper is one of your prints, which is amazing. Because if you love the print, then you kind of do want it everywhere. On your walls and everything. That's awesome.
Well, I say when I'm doing my house, I think, why would I just go and buy another? Why would I go and buy another print? Do you know what I mean? we'll just design one. And
I love that. Let's see here. I'm gonna look at the next question here, where we want to go with this conversation. How do you build a connection with your community? I mean, that's something that I think a lot of stylists think about, because a lot of times you're not. I mean, now it's been great, quote unquote, about COVID, is that I see more and more people on Instagram Live, and so even people that, when COVID started, they were like, I don't do Instagram Live. Now everyone's jumping into Instagram Live, which is a way to kind of see people's faces. But a lot of times what's happening is you're putting something out there without actually seeing who you're speaking to. So what are some of your tricks or tips on how you've built a connection with your community, even though you're not with them in real life?
Should I go? Mine would just be, I mean, I touched on it before, just that honest voice. Like, we're just a very honest company. Do you know what I mean? There's no, and I think that is what people relate to then. And then I think it's important as well, if you're honest, you're attracting the right people. Like, even if I only discovered not too long ago that you can see like people that have unfollowed you. And I was like, but there's no love lost there. If they're not the right followers for you, I'd rather not have like 1 million followers and 10 of those buy something or engage with what we're doing. You'd rather have 50 followers that all buy and engage. So I think just having that honest, that would be my advice. I say for someone building that, just be really honest to what you do, because then you'd attract the right people for you. There's no point in like if you pretend to be something else, which you can't really do on a live, there's no hiding there. You might attract wrong people that aren't gonna go on that right journey with you. I mean, you might be 2 years down the line and think, oh, this is the wrong vibe for my following.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about it's okay if you have 50 followers, if there are people that are really into you. I think that's the most important thing that, you know, I always want to share and communicate with stylists, is that you don't have to have thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers. You just need to authentically engage with the people that really love what you're doing. And so I think that that's great. Cassandra, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, I think honesty is, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think just being transparent and showing, if you're if you're personally the influencer, just showing who you are, because otherwise people can't know you and then they can't really be invested in you. And I think that kind of can just be summarized in just kind of seeing followers as friends in a way. Like they should feel like they know you and they're your friend, and you can only accomplish that through being honest. So I agree with that entirely. And I think also when you see your followers as friends and want them to see you in that way, it's kind of you really need to show that you value them. And I think that that means always responding as much as you can, just showing that if they reach out to you, that that matters to you. And I think one thing that so I try to respond constantly as much as I can. Sometimes I'll post and I'll do something else and forget to respond to comments and just completely forget. But I mean, I think another way to do that is to just, and I really should do this more actually too, is just kind of acknowledging how much it means to you to have followers, which I feel like that's almost like weird to say, but I see people doing this, and I do think that it just kind of showing that having the fact that people follow you is important to you. Maybe not in saying like, wow, this is like, thank you guys so much, but I think it matters, just to have that community. And I think another thing is just really doing well with branding. I think when you address people and say, oh my gosh, like you guys know me so well, then people feel that they're within your community if you use like specific words. I think that there's one influencer who I think does this very well. I don't know if you guys follow Emma Leger, but she always uses specific words like stunning queen or PFG. And then it's funny because you see her followers start to use those. And I think because, they're using the same words
What
and they
does PFG
associate them
mean?
with her. Pink feed goals. So
Okay.
it's something that she started with a friend of hers, I guess. And now everything that's pink, she calls it PFG. But essentially it's, I know this because I'm her follower, and
Yeah.
her followers know it, and then they feel in her community. And I think just making those little points of constantly bringing people within your inner circle, and that they're your friend, and that they have this one thing that's a connection with you and only you, is really important. But yeah, I think it's kind of, a really interesting thing, because some people share almost nothing about themselves, like if you follow the blogger MBB. But I think if you're going to do that, you have to have a very, very strong, very unique aesthetic. But otherwise, it's really about really, again, goes back to honesty and being yourself and having a strong personality that people will feel that they are connected with you. So.
And how did you guys both do that? I think a lot of, women feel at first intimidated or kind of shy or reserved about sharing their personality. Like, what should I share? What shouldn't I share? I hear that a lot. And so how have you guys, was this very natural to you just to kind of put it all out, just to share your personality with people? Or is it something that kind of was like a snowball effect where you got better and better with it over time?
I think I touched on it before. Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I would just go on there just because I don't really have high expectations of myself. So if I do something wrong, it don't matter. I'm not disappointed. Do you know what I mean? So I think you just go on there. I said our brand has always been an extension of myself. That's where it started. So it would be mad for someone else. And of course, we have different brand ambassadors, like friends of the brand, who all, even our staff, like all of our staff are on the platform, but it is ultimately you. So it has to be your voice. That would, and it was nice, I think, how you spoke about the makeup brand, like it's as a family and the ethos within the staff, there's a community already there. So I think it's only natural that then that extends. I had a meeting yesterday, and the passion that this girl talked about her bosses, and they're like massive in the UK. It was really inspiring and lovely how she spoke about them, because I think if you're installing that community amongst your staff, it's only natural that that would spread out with your voice and amongst your customer as well. So yeah, I suppose if it does start from me, then, but I don't know.
Did it start naturally from you? Because I feel like when I speak with a lot of stylists, there's a mystery or a concentration around, like, how do I have it start for me? Like, were you just always someone that could just, you seem very centered and grounded. You have a very calm personality. Maybe you're being quiet because your kids are sleeping. It's very calming. So I think that's where a lot of stylists can struggle, is like, how do I figure out who I am?
I would always just say, then just don't overthink it. Like what you're saying, like even for them to even have these questions, I find it a bit, not to anyone specific, it's a bit indulgent. Like, get over yourself. Just do what, if that's what you enjoy doing, do it. And if you've made the choice to be on Instagram and do what you do on Instagram, or whatever. Sorry, there are the social platforms. So just go out in there and do it. Don't overthink. Like, these questions, just feel, you'll learn if you've done something and it went down like a lead balloon, or if you've done it and people loved it, you'll find very, very quick. People are very vocal out there on social. Do you know what I mean? Of whether they like you or not. So you'll soon learn what is right for you and yeah, your direction.
Yeah, Cassandra, how about you?
I agree with that entirely. You know, I find this to be such an interesting question and topic. I started my social media when I was still in college, and then I really started leaning into it after I graduated. And one of my main platforms before Instagram was actually YouTube. I really started growing my community there. And, you know, it was at a time where what was gaining traction on YouTube was just these really out there, like intense personalities, and just like almost screaming at the camera. And I remember starting, it was just like what was, like, you know, blowing up then. And I just remember just really thinking that that's what I had to do in order to be successful on YouTube. And so I did that, and it almost felt like acting. And now when I watch a video back, I'm just like, who is that person? Like, I just don't even, it doesn't feel like me at all. And so I think, yeah, it is just, you really need to be yourself. And but I think that's also not, it isn't easy, because, you know, I'm a much different person at 28 now than I was at 22, and I have much more probably refined taste, you know, just that comes with age. And so it's you know, finding your voice, and I think finding yourself, and it does become, I think, more amplified on social media, which can be hard, because I mean, even now I'm constantly reevaluating the photos I take. I'll take a photo at the beginning of the month, and maybe I'm like sitting on the fence about posting it, and by the end of the month I'm like, I could never post this photo. And so it's hard. I don't know. I think just really, I think what you really want to do is just constantly be editing that what you want, especially when it comes to a feed. But I think it's also a really interesting question, because I was in a very long-term relationship, and I never really thought about how I came across on social media from myself, other than like, how can I be successful on it? And then as soon as I was single, I started dating again, and the guys who I had met on Hinge or whatever I'd gone on a date with started following me. I all of a sudden was like, I don't know if I can post this, because they don't know me well enough. And so I found myself like wanting to hide certain people from my stories. So it's really interesting, because I think no matter what, you know, it's it can be hard to be yourself on social media, but I think again, like you really can't be constantly second guessing yourself, because then you're just going to get posting paralysis, and then you're really not getting anywhere. So I think just kind of think about how you want your brand to look, and just always have that in mind. And if your brand is your personality, and really just being yourself is like really all you can do. And then if you find that maybe your taste change or this and that, then go with that. But it I think now it's very people tend to change aesthetics quite frequently anyways. So if it comes to that, it's really, I think it's very fluid, and I don't think second guessing is really productive at the end of the day.
I like that, posting paralysis. That really can help, and that happen. That's a real thing, and that's, I think it's, again, with stylists, I always like to encourage them to say, just post, just put it out there. It's okay if you do change your aesthetic. A lot of people, I think, they feel like, should I just delete everything and start over? I wonder if you have any thoughts about that from a branding perspective. Like, if someone, do you start over?
I'm doing that all the time. I probably think about that like every other week.
Really?
When I
Okay,
delete
good.
everything. So I think it's very natural to have that feeling. But I mean, again, like then that's not useful, because if a brand comes to my page and thinks, oh, should I work with her? Then there's nothing to look at. So but I do scroll back like to last year sometimes, and I'm just like, wow, like even just over the course of the year, my just posts have changed so much. So I don't know. It's
Yeah.
all very
But
fluid.
that's great. No, I just
Yeah,
think
no,
that shows
yeah,
that you've moved. You don't want the post to be the same
yeah,
than a year ago. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
you want that other side of you, and you can see that how something's progressed.
totally.
Well, Lucy, yours must have progressed, because you've been in business for 12 years.
Yeah, I think so. 11, maybe 11.
Yeah. 11, yeah. So you've probably seen.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen a change in 12 years? Like, in what way has your community changed, or has it just gotten bigger? It feels like you're very authentic. Like, I feel like it probably just grew from a very strong center.
Yeah, I said just really organically. Like, there was no. I think I'm of that generation where I've got younger sisters now, they're 20. They grew up just with social media. Do you know what I mean? Ours, it was a little bit more thrust upon us so quick. And I'm a little bit nervous almost that there hasn't been more government intervention or something of how we deal with that, and how that affects mental health and stuff. I think we're only now maybe seeing a little bit in the UK. So I think that the government should have been much more responsible early on, to be honest, in the whole area. But I forgot the question. Yeah, what was the question?
I think the question was like, how has your community evolved? Or do you have such a strong core that it just
The way we posted?
bigger?
Yeah, it just moved with it. I said there were no posting rules. You didn't know what, and there was only Instagram. Like, you couldn't do video on there. Definitely no lives or anything like that. There was, I know Cassandra said that she's tried everything. So I remember when there was Vine for a little bit, when they introduced video, and then Instagram just copied anything that comes about. Instagram will kind of just copy, but do more where people are. So, so I suppose the ways of posting has developed, but ultimately, if we do go through the history and see what works, it tends to be the same things that people want, and it is always the post that feels the most authentic, and it doesn't have to have the bells and whistles. Do you know what I mean? So people still want from us styling videos. I like looking back, actually, looking at the.
I'm going to open it up to questions. So anyone that would like to ask a question, just go ahead and type it in chat, because I'm seeing a couple. And this might be, I'm not looking at the timestamp, but this one is, we may have already touched on this, but I'll ask the questions that come up. How do you recommend taking the intimidation of social media? How do you recommend taking maybe out the intimidation of social media and attracting people organically? I think we touched on it, but I'd love you both to answer that again. Like, what advice would you give someone to not feel intimidated by social media?
For us, for us, it would just try to have that, whoever your viewer or subscriber, like for us, it would be our customer, represented in what you're showing. So say if it's a stylist, I don't know if they're showing outfits, whatever it is, to have the people in the outfit. It's not always that whether it's a crazy celebrity or whoever, I feel like to just have people that community or the person watching it can relate to and aren't intimidated by. So say for us, like my mum will be on it, or you'd go, oh, this is how you wear something with big boobs or little boobs. Do you know what I mean? So it's not always, oh, but that person's always going to look amazing because they look XYZ. So I think for us just to really have that representation. So because it is so global, someone can tune in from Timbuktu and still feel, oh, there's an element there and I can kind of relate to that.
I love that. Cassandra, what would your advice be?
Yeah, I think I would just say, and I think I kind of touched on this earlier, but didn't really hone in on it. It's just really consistency. I think would be a good step in the right direction. Really, because I mean, yes, social media can be intimidating, and I find myself feeling that way constantly in terms of, just seeing people who are growing really quickly or just posting content twice a day, and then I'm just caught up thinking, oh my gosh, like I need better content, I need more content. And then like I said earlier, you get this kind of like paralysis of like, well, and like you don't want to take a step forward until maybe you know exactly what you want to do, or you have like the perfect post. But I mean, again, like I said, I think that really ends up working against you in the long run, and especially when it comes to growing. And I think, if you just want to grow organically, and everybody does, it's really comes down to being consistent and regularly posting. It's better, I think, to maybe post things that maybe you're maybe 90 to 95% sure of than just sitting in silence until you feel 1000% about a certain post. And I mean, I think, it's especially if you're a perfectionist, which I know I can be, and I will say, a lot of people at our company are very much like this. We want things to be very perfect, and we really want to put the best out there for people. But I think sometimes, the intimidation of maybe this won't work, or is it exactly right, can often hold you back from making any progress. And I think that can apply to really so many things, and not just social media. And sometimes you just need to move forward. I remember my mom told me when I was younger that half the work is just starting. And I think when it comes to social media, half the work is just doing.
I love that. Yeah, that's a good one. That's very true. Just start wherever you're at. Just start. That's what I tell anyone always, because it's always going to evolve. I think like the last question is, that's it. Criticism. How do you deal with criticism? Because if you put yourself out there, you're going to get some pushback, or you're going to have the comment that is going to make you feel bad. What's your advice that you would give people about when they see a critical response or a critical comment or criticism of when you put yourself out there authentically?
I mean, I think, first of all, assess whether or not that criticism is valid or not. If someone's just criticizing the way that something was styled, or, the way that they don't like your hair dark instead of light, if you just, it's like, how valid is this criticism, first of all? If it's not valid and relevant, then just ignore it. I think if it is valid criticism, I think, in June, most brands experienced a lot of criticism with the Black Lives Matter movement, and pivoting their brands to have more people of color on their social media feeds. And I think when it's, criticism of that nature that's valid or productive, then, take it to heart, and start seeing how it can be implemented going forward. I think, some criticism is irrelevant, some of it's valid. And I think, just go from there, and always be open to listening to your community, because, that's it. But I find I get very little criticism on my own personal platform.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's like happening. I'm sure, on occasion someone will like send something to someone and be like, I don't like this post, or I don't like her outfit. But I find I get very little on my own, especially on Instagram. YouTube is a little bit more, people tend to feel a little more that they can say whatever there, but not so much on Instagram. It's a very supportive platform, I find.
Yeah, I had a meeting actually yesterday with the head of marketing at Facebook, and I voiced with him that Instagram is such a positive platform, whereas Facebook, people just go in. It's like a trolling hole, and even my sister the other day was like, Luce, why are you still on there? Like, some people just, and we don't care. It might be someone saying that they hate a print, and I don't really mind. I mean, the only time we ever really then remove an image would be if they were being unkind about the person in the photo. I'd always much rather it be me because I don't care. But if it's someone who we've worked with, or a customer that we've worked with, and people were just going in, I don't know, something touch, might have a birthmark on us, and people were being horrible. I'm like, this is strange that you're all spending time going in on this. Like, so that's the only time we'd remove it. But I think, Cassandra, like what you said, I think on your personal one, you probably don't get that negativity because it comes back to what we were saying before, that your community is growing organically and you're attracting the right people for your vibe. Do you know what I mean? So I think the more authenticity you have, that the more supportive your community will be. But again, it depends what your platform is. So for us, we're a consumer facing kind of account. So if people are making recommendations about our service or product, then of course we'll listen. Every single comment is valid. But if it's something, if they're saying they don't like a styling, I don't mind. It ups your engagement. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind people going in on that. If someone hates something,
I think and I just think when it's personal too, you can't, I think there will just always be haters, like you just can't be scared of it. And I remember when my first video on YouTube went viral, that was like the most criticism I got on anything I've ever done on social media. And we got to a point where I stopped opening notifications. And and I remember,
it's such a shame, because I was going to say, like, then you'd be the most affected, because it's easy me saying, oh, if someone said I looked awful, I don't care. But I'm lucky that I've never had any issues with anything. Do you know what I mean? But I say, but if you are more sensitive and you really have had, if my nose really bothered me every day and then someone went in on that, do you know what I mean? Like, they're the people that then need help. And I say, I don't think there is enough support and intervention there that that supports and stops that. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it's rare that someone, say like me, would go, oh, I don't care. I think most people would probably be sensitive about that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a hard one. I mean, if it's, I think definitely it's something that comes with the territory on social media. And I've thought about this quite a bit, actually, because, when you are an influencer, the ultimate goal is just to have more and more and more followers, which just means opening yourself up to more and more and more fame and criticism. I mean, the more people who follow you and know you, I mean, there's online blogs dedicated to just bashing influencers. And I know, certain influencers, like Something Navy, it seems like every time I read her comments, people are just like really tearing her apart. And it's something that you definitely open yourself up to. And it's something that you have to think, is this something I'd be willing to deal with? If yes, no. And if not, and I think if people are really criticizing something specific, it's always valid to call people out and say, I'm not okay with this being said. And if it keeps going, then block people.
But that takes strength for someone to do that, though. Do you know what I mean? If it's a personal one, it's easier for us to do, I think, as a brand. Do you know what I mean? Because, but I think if that's, you're managing your own account as a personal influencer, I think that's tough to have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's something that can definitely come with the territory. And I think, it can also be turned into a strong suit. I mean, I've seen influencers who, maybe, and like you said, it's like, maybe don't like specific facial features, and they do get comments on it, and then they addressed it in a YouTube video. And I think it made me like that influencer more. So, turn it into a positive, turn it into making your community even stronger at the end of the day. And honestly, if you do get a negative comment, criticism, when it's a personal thing and you have built a strong community, then I've seen followers who just like will, if someone bullying,
we've got like people who
why are you saying so
it's nice
just,
to
it
see.
happens. It's life. Can't let it scare you.
Well, the reality is, and we'll kind of, this will be the close because we're out of time. This one went so fast, but I feel like the thing for everyone to know is there's so many supportive women like you guys, you girls, who are out there kind of cheering for each other. And I so appreciate everything that you shared. Thank you so much for being part of the day, you guys. I'm so happy to meet you. And just thank you for being you and sharing your journey and your insights with us.
Thank you very much
Thanks for having me.
Have a good night, Lucy.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know, I reckon my cousin, my husband would just be, he broke his toe about an hour ago as well, like before the tomb. And one of them was jumping on his toes all over the place. So I'm hoping he's still alive upstairs. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And
I
Cassandra,
might just say that this is overrun for like an hour and just stay down here and have a bit more peace and quiet.
I don't know. Take care of the toe.
Yeah.
We're going. Wonderful. Well,
Cool.
thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.